So,
Okay, so welcome here, heartfelt welcome to this live talk in March, where we will talk about acupuncture. I'm very excited and very happy that I'm able now to offer these talks from time to time, because with the new site and with the introduction into technical stuff, it feels much more aligned. I feel much more at ease, and it feels as a wonderful tool to share with you, whether you are here live or whether you hear it later, about topics that are close to my heart and that I know also that are interesting for many of you, so that you can also choose what you want to listen to and that you get insights, hopefully, in your own life and in your own journey. So it's very interesting to hear, because I just talked to some of you before, and I know that there is a very challenging relationship for many of us with needles, with acupuncture. And just the imagination of having needles in our body is often a very difficult thing, especially when we deal with other issues where we have actual medical needles also in our body. But this is exactly the reason why I offer this talk, because it took me many years to kind of heal my trauma that I was experiencing when I gave birth to my daughter, so 32 years ago. And while giving birth, they were asking me if I would be open to have acupuncture done on me. And of course, I was in no place to make a clear decision. And I said, of course, yes, if ever you can take this pain from me, do whatever you want. And it was a very traumatic experience that then prevented me afterwards to go to any acupuncturist for another 35 years. And so once when I really got into it and I could experience in myself, and I understood that putting needles in our body does not need to be painful. It can be sensitive, but then also understanding why. But in no way it needs to be painful in a way that only when it hurts, it helps. This was a very freeing, liberating realization for me, that then made me then starting the journey into Chinese medicine. But even in this journey with Chinese medicine, I spent 15 years without touching a needle. So whenever they put a needle in my hands, I said, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. Also because I understood how complex this world of acupuncture and needles are. So when we talk about acupuncture, we really go into the world of Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, where when we see the sign, the Chinese sign for Chinese medicine, it is done or consists of 4 different signs. One is the discipline and rules by which Chinese medicine is running. All these rules, all these experiences and discipline that had been passed on over thousands of years from one generation over to the other, with also, of course, evolving quite a bit. So this is the first point of this traditional Chinese medicine, the rules, the discipline, the experience that we are having there. The second one is the sign for herbs that comes with a bottle of alcohol. So the herbs is a whole world in itself that I haven't even touched, that can bring us relief. And I heard it before from one of you that can bring great healing if it's being taken in a wise way and being shared from a practitioner who has really an idea. Then the third point is tuina, and tuina is a massage technique from Chinese medicine that goes to the acupuncture and acupressure points and has a specific technique to stimulate this area. And then the fourth point, there we have the needles, the acupuncture needles. So just that you know, in which context that we are looking at this topic here today. When we are talking about acupuncture, and you, I think all of you who are listening to this know this or have experienced this already, we are talking about interconnectedness. We are talking about the holistic approach of bringing balance to our system. We are not talking about sickness, although we are talking about having pain, having symptoms, restrictions, limitations that we often brings us to look for help in other fields than just Western medicine, where often when there are chronic pain or maintaining our health, the tools are often restricted, whereas Chinese medicine is really in a great place in maintaining health, providing health, and bringing relief to chronic pain and suffering that we have. So we are talking about the invisible world here. We are talking about energy, the qi, and energy channels that are running through our body, the meridians. And it's really important to know that nowadays, thank God, most of us, or many of us, I'm still surprised how many still do not see acupuncture or Chinese medicine or Ayurveda or any of the holistic approaches as a valid tool to bring balance and well-being to our life. But nowadays, the science has been catching up, and we know that these so far invisible channels and points have been made visible. They have become a part of our anatomy, of our Western understanding of how the body is made, and that the energy is part of it. So also the channels, when we now go to the points and we look better what is happening when we put needles into the body at certain places that are running along meridians, these energy channels that are running through our body, I think it's really important to have a visual perspective and reference of these invisible meridian channels, and then also invisible acupuncture points, because actually they are very specific anatomic places in our body. Some of you who have done the Yin Yoga teacher training with me, you have got a little demonstration of that I will do here in a little different way, because I think it's very important that we have something visible. So when we are talking about our body, we are talking about a lot of tubes that are not really straight, but that run through our body in all different curves. And all of these tubes are wrapped in a layer of fascia. Okay, that's here in this part in form of this kitchen paper. And then these tubes are wrapped within the fascia so that they can be separated from the other tubes, that there is a line in between, that every cell knows, oh, I belong to the blue tube and I belong to the red tube. Yeah, so the fascia defines a tube, an organ, a vessel, a muscle, and all the cells within that fascia know where they belong to, and that they are going to work towards the same goal, to maintain this specific structure alive and healthy. So when we are dissecting bodies, or when we are thinking about bodies, we all know about these amazing muscles and organs and everything. And we were many, many years looking for these energy channels. And of course said they are not there, they do not exist. So this is all like a airy-fairy thing just for spiritual seekers and believers. And many of us have started our journey like this, and it was sufficient for us to feel the effects that were happening when we addressed these airy-fairy invisible channels and points, when we had the experience that they were actually helping us. But now, and I still remember when Dr. Köhn Daniel Kern showed me this in London, and it took me really a few months to really understand. Now we know that energy channels are the space, or is the space, that runs in between these structures, because two structures make always a third structure, or two spaces create another space. So the space in between the fascias, maybe for example here in between two tendons, is the place where the meridian is running and where this chi, the energy, is running. And you can see just by this demonstration that this meridian channel with the chi running in between can be blocked and compromised just by these physical structures being maybe too voluminous, too contracted, that they press on that channel and the energy in there cannot flow anymore. So this is one very visible example to see how these channels can be constricted, can be compressed, and this energy that is supposed to run to a certain place in the body or away from a certain place cannot get there anymore. We have so many energy channels as we have cells, but we are concentrating on the big energy channels, the meridians that go to our organs. So we are usually talking about 12 organ pairs plus the two extra meridians, the governor and the conception meridians. But so actually these are anatomic, actual, real channels that are running through our body, that are connecting structures with each other. And the chi that is running in between in these energy channels in the meridians, this chi, like the blood and the breath, is supposed to flow freely. So when the energy, the chi, the blood and the emotions flow freely to all the places and can be expressed, then we are healthy. If anything stops to flow, whether it is compressed from the outside or the chi, the energy itself, becomes too weak, deficient, and is not strong enough to get to the place where it is supposed to go, or to take substances away from a place where it needs to be liberated, or whether there is too much energy, too much strength, too much flow, and it eventually comes to a stagnation, which then blocks the rest of this channel, and then of course goes to all the rivers, the other channels and meridians that are also depending on the free, smooth flow in our body of energy. And we in Chinese medicine, in Eastern medicine, whenever we talk about qi, we talk about blood, we talk about emotions, we talk about breath. So it is, we always talk about one thing. So these meridians, these currents in our body that connect our head maybe with the toe, the different system, the communication within our body on a nerve level, on an endocrine level, on a digestive level, neurons level, blood level, all these energies are helping to keep our universum that we are made of connected, healthy, and in flow. So of course life kicks in here, and many things can happen, not only a contracted muscle that can also compress our meridian or flow of qi, but emotional experiences, belief patterns, conditioning, relationship, environment where we are in. So all of these factors can impact the free flow of energy, and then of course bring pain, limitations, chronic issues in our digestive system, in our immune system, in our endocrine system, or in any part of our body. So it is an amazing place to look at when we have problems or when we want to keep ourselves healthy and strong and in a vital place, no matter what age that we have. So from the energy channels, now we go to the energy points, and I will show you something visual as soon as I'm finished with explaining a little bit something about the points. So when you look, for example, at your inside of the hand, when I say that the meridians are actual anatomic structures, for example, on the inside of your wrist, you have these two in the center, you have these two tendons that both together in the middle of them, you really have a visual, realistic channel running here. And this is the meridian of our pericardium, our Herzbeutel, the fascia that involves or wraps our heart and protects it from many patterns and issue. So you can really feel it when you go along with your thumb along it. And if you start really at the wrist here and you go with not too much pressure, you can actually feel how you fall into some little holes. And if you just go farther away or you follow this channel, you feel like you go from hole to hole. It needs a little bit of practice, and if you are using your hands because you're a therapist or a body worker or something else in this direction, then you will have an easier approach to it. But just keep doing it because you will actually feel the points. And the points also are not just random points that somebody picked, some old Chinese picked thousands of years ago and said, here is the bladder point 62, here is the stomach 36. They are actually really points along these meridians that we, of course, have to learn and study and always to look back and look up also where they are. But with time, we get a feeling for it. So when we put the needle, or when we use it as acupressure, which I did for years and years and years in my practice, then we can feel if a point lets us in, or even if we don't know if there is a point, but we can feel if a certain place in our body lets us in, or if there is resistance and it's kind of like a swollen or tense part in it rather than a smooth flow of this channel. So we can feel if something is blocked or if something is open, if something has too much energy or if something has a deficient energy. With a point, for example, when it is weak, it has deficient energy, then there is like no force. We fall like into a hole. And if it has too much energy and it comes to a stagnation, then it's like a hubble, like a bubble that we are, or like a little stone, or like something that makes us like stop, and then we have to go over it. And when it's smooth and everything, then it means that all of these points are really nicely connected with each other within the channel. So when we put a needle in, or when we press and massage, which is actually as efficient as a needle in, then we stimulate that point where there is a close connection from the deeper meridian levels to the outer world. So all of these points of these acupuncture, acupressure points represent a connecting point from our inner universum to the outer universum, even if we cannot really see them with our eyes. And I think it is time now to go to the needles, because I would really like to show you and have it a little bit more visual when we go farther on, because I know that the needles are a big topic. So this was our entrance picture, which I really love. These are the needles, how they are made of, how they used to be made of. Now these ones we would have to sanitize and to clean after each use, and this is how they used to use these needles before. And you can see they're quite thick. So the thicker a needle, the more you feel it when they get are being put into the skin, into the body. Thank God, and I'm having a lot of fun really with using these needles since almost 2 years now, a year and a half that I'm using them. Also thanks to the evolution of technological world, or of the world in general. Maybe it's not technology, but they are so thin nowadays that you can really often, you do not even feel that something got into your body, which then comes with the doubt, but if I cannot feel it, is it really doing something? But this doubt, I can take you. Oh, okay. So this is what we are talking about, right? We are talking about these energy channels here. We have the back, shoulder, neck, and head, where we see in the yellow line, we see the very famous Dumai meridian, which is the governor vessel that runs along the whole midline of our back, of our spine. And to the side, to both sides, are the two famous bladder channels. The closer one to the spine is the one that addresses physical issues for each one of the organs, as the bladder channel has points for each one of the organs with a very specific, efficient effect. And the next one, the parallel one, is also a bladder channel, but addresses the emotional issues that corresponds to this certain organ. So for example, bladder 13, the inner layer here is the lung, and addresses all the issue we can have with the lung. And the one that is the 44, number 44, the parallel one, addresses everything that is emotionally linked to the lungs, like for example, grief, loss, the courage to feel, really the willingness to live and to show up every day. So these are very interesting designs here from our meridians. And then comes in here the small intestine that goes over our shoulder blades and treats a lot of our shoulder pain or issues that are in this area also. So we see here these needles. I don't know, are they modern needles or are they older needles? Because we can see them quite well. Maybe it has been a great camera, but you can see how they are put into the body. So this is where we start to feel a little bit of this pain when we think about a needle in our body. Just a little intermezzo here, information that of course every channel has a certain amount of points. The lung has not 1 point but 11 here, but it's not important now for you with the numbers. What is important and interesting is to see if, just before we go into the needles and have a closer look to a needle, what structures a needle has to penetrate in order to reach deeper tissues. So we have the dermis here, and we have the epidermis and dermis, and come then to the fat tissue, and then only below is really the muscle tissue. So even when the needle only goes in the first part here, it already reaches the meridian channels of our different organs that and then are connected to other structures. And it's highly efficient because when they are being put in, it's like a magnet to all the fascia, to all the tissue. They are like going towards this needle and are kind of wrapping around it. And it's kind of either tonifying and strengthening the area, or if there is too much there, it's dispersing and calming this specific area. So this has been proven and shown already in scientific researches, and it's very interesting to look at that. So it's not just putting a needle in and then nothing is happening. It's really stimulating something here, and these blocked areas or weakened areas or in excess areas are finding balance with time. These 20 minutes that needles are in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes an hour, and something is really happening. So this is closer to, you see that only that we can see a little bit what's happening. This is a vertebra from the back. So this is our bladder channel. Now here the heart point, and also the heart point for the emotional parts, but this is not so important, only that you see a little bit what it is penetrating. It does not go to, or it does not need to go to the bones. Of course, there are longer needles that can go in when we need it, but usually these needles are really not so long and don't need to go too much into it to have their effect. So how tiny is an acupuncture needle? I think it helped me to see really what the thickness of an acupuncture needle is. Here we have a little matchstick, which is already quite fine. And then we have a medical syringe. So when a medical needle is being put in our body, which is not so pleasant as we have been talking before, I think before we talked. So if you have a lot of experience with medical needles, taking your blood or doing other things, then this is the thickness of it. And it has nothing to do with where we are going and what we are using in acupuncture. This is a sewing needle, already much thinner. And I mean, those of us who try without glasses to put the thread into these needles, we know how thin they are. So even this is thick when we compare it to an acupuncture needle. This here, for example, is 0.25 millimeters. And I'm working with 0.20 millimeters, or for people who have a little bit thicker or more mass, I work with this kind of thickness. So this is kind of the thickness that we are working with. And it's very, very thin. So just having this visualization and seeing how thin it is helps a little bit many of us to calm our nervous system. It is still a needle that is being put in our body. And this is why I really decided, and I always wanted to do it, but I had so much respect of this complexity of acupuncture that it took me really until 2 years ago when I started to just study acupuncture with my teachers from Shanghai in Barcelona, to really just concentrate on this art. And so one thing is knowing the interconnectedness of how all organs are working with each other, of how all structures are working with each other, of how our life situation or life story or circumstances are being reflected in form of qi, in form of emotions, of contraction, of obsessive thinking or clarity, so that there is already a diagnosis that is really complex, that we need to understand how everything is connected. But then when we come to the needle or to the acupuncture point, there are really different possibilities to work with this. Sorry. We can put a needle in. We can massage it. We can put moksha it and heat it. I will show you a picture afterwards. And heat it from the outside. We can use cupping balls that we can also unblock stagnation. We want with acupuncture, especially unblocking stagnation, we want to restore the free flow of energy, emotions, and blood and thoughts. We want to strengthen energy and parts of our body that are weak, sometimes because something happened traumatic, sometimes because of an experience, and sometimes it's just because of the decline of our inherent life energy because we are getting older. And this is something that's very hard for us to respect often or to see. And what I love in my studies with my teachers from Chinese medicine who look at the body and our age like from the perspective of nature, and it's just very clear that the kidney energy is declining with the years and then cannot feed and nurture the rest of our body or our brain, and we get to forget more things, and it is natural. And then of course we want to step into it to keep it strong, but also embracing this natural decline in energy and function that we also can have. So this is what these acupuncture points are for and are working with. The actual physical contraction and pain, an actual weakness in our system that we can boost, that we can help to stay strong or to recuperate, to calm something down that is much too much in excess, especially when we are in fight and flight mode and cannot get back into a normal healthy state ourselves. So needles or massage pointing or stimulating these points in one way or another help us. Or just to bring balance to our nervous system, our digestive system, and our endocrine system, and all the system in our body. Oops.
Oh, shit.
Oh, somebody is not muted. I just mute you, Karin. Okay. So when we talk about acupuncture and somebody is still afraid to go to the acupuncturist, please know, when you go to an acupuncturist or to somebody who uses needles, I use needles in my osteopathy and energy practice as a complementary practice or tool. I don't use it all the time, but it can be a beautiful complementary tool while I'm working energetically, and then I have some needles in that do the work for me while I can work on a different point. First of all, needles do not need to hurt. People are differently sensitive, but when a needle hurts and keeps hurting, because sometimes it hurts when it gets in because something is very tense or something is swollen or something is very sensitive, it should fade after 1, 2, 3 breaths. If this is not the case, let your practitioner know, and they can take it out and they can change the position, or they can just leave that space also in peace. Because sometimes it's just a little millimeter away from where it should go, and we cannot always tell because it's such a tiny place or tool that we have and such a broad place. So sometimes just moving it a little way away, and then it comes with ease. But speak with your practitioner and tell them when something is unpleasant. You do not need to suffer in one of these sessions. You should be able to relax and feel the connection happen or just drift away. Because there are a lot of other tools that we have in Chinese medicine, and I love them equally. We have what we call the moksha, moxibustion, the Artemisia herb that can be used in different forms, either here very compressed in form of sticks, where they do not really, they don't have umo, they don't smoke, which here up you see it in a original form, this puro, this stick, this moksha stick, that you just bring very close to these points, and it gets really hot. You cannot touch the skin, but through this heat, and then you go away again, and then you go close again. You do this for a few times. You unblock stagnation, you strengthen and tonify, and you can do all different kind of things. And you can also put moksha on the needles, which I also love. I do it a lot of myself and also on my patients, which increases the effect of a needle, because the heat goes down, and we can repeat it several times while the patient is lying in a relaxed way. There are also indirect ways to use this moksha, or directly on the body, especially when we have issues with our digestive system. This is a wonderful combination when we have strong issues with our digestive system, or weak spleen and stomach chi, who are really responsible to take out this nurturing energy from our food and distribute it upwards and downwards to create new blood and new chi, and also to nourish then the other organs. So just that you know, there are a lot of different tools, not just acupuncture, not just the needles, but also other tools that help us to bring again the flow into our meridians, into our body, into our way of thinking, into our way of looking at life, and also into our way of going through life. Okay, so it was really my intention with this first talk, because we could have, of course, this is a field that can be studied, investigated, talked about years and years and years, and I think I'm definitely on the run to do this till the end of my lifespan. But if this little talk has brought you a little bit of insight of how the needles work, what we are talking about, what they can do, and how it looks actually on a physical body in an anatomic, from an anatomic point of view, that I really just hope that it takes a little bit the fear away for those who are afraid or skeptical, those who have made already beautiful experiences, that they can understand it also more. And just stay open, and maybe look for somebody if you haven't found a good acupuncture practitioner yet. Looking for somebody, so when you need somebody, and or when you are ready to try somebody out, that you know where to go to. And then, you know, always observe, feel into you, and you will see and feel if this is the right person, if this is the right practice, and then take it from there. Do you have any questions right here? You know, you can always write me also. But if you have any questions directly here, I'm also happy to answer them. Okay. So then I thank you so much for being with me here, that I'm not alone with the screen, because I know many people will then listen to it whenever they can in their flow, whether it is now, in a day, in a week, in a year. And I'm very happy to do these live talks, and I will keep doing this. The next one will only be in May, because I know April, there is Easter, there is hopefully spring for many of us, and everybody is a little bit differently busy. Otherwise, I will send an email out or post it on social media if something spontaneous is happening. Thank you so much for being with me, and stay open and keep really taking care of yourself. It's the most important, precious gift that we all have. Thank you. All the best. See you soon. Bye.